These are the directions for cutting layout and pattern prep for the pajama pant directions. My fabric is 45 inches wide, so I will be using this layout right here. Remember, I am not doing pockets, so I won't be using pattern piece 7, but this is what I'll be using for my directions. I'm going to slide those out of the way and lay my fabric out. I am using a pattern or a fabric that is non-directional. Now this is going to take a little bit of space, so it might be easier for you to lay this out on the floor if there are lots of other people in your class here. Again, my fabric is non-directional, so it doesn't matter if the tops of my pattern pieces are going this way or this way. You're just going to work with whichever way makes you feel more comfortable. Now I am going to be making a large pair of pajama pants. I just want to make sure that my pattern pieces are parallel, okay? This arrow right here is my straight of grain arrow. I want to make sure that it's going straight down, because if it's not going straight, my geometric print here, my plaid, is going to be going diagonal down my body. So, as we're laying this out on our fabric here, we want to make sure that this is straight. To do that, I can put a pin in this side of the pattern, down through all of the fabric and back up to the top, and I use my tape measure, and I just measure to the edge. So from that point to this point is 12.5 inches. If I work my way down here, I'm at 12.5 inches. I am perfectly straight, just the way I am. So I'm just going to put a little pin in right there so it doesn't move on me. I'm going to be making a size large, so I'm going to work my way around my pattern here. My large line is this dashed line. Now on commercial patterns, sometimes a pattern will have more than one size in it. So you need to recognize which line, dashed line, is the size that you're making. Now, on a one-size-fits-all commercial pattern, the dashed line usually indicates the stitching line. The solid line is where you're cutting. So kind of just make sure that you're keeping that in the back of your head. If there's more than one size in the pattern, you're going to be using a dashed line as a cutting line. I want to make sure that my pattern pieces are completely on the fabric all the way around. You'll notice that as I've been pinning, I've been leaving about a hand width apart, sometimes a little bit bigger space in between the pins. That's okay. You don't need to put pin to pin to pin to pin. It just needs to be held in place enough that it's not going to move on you while you're cutting. Next, I'm going to come down and I'm going to place my next pattern piece. You always want to place all of the pattern pieces before you start cutting. This is going to ensure that you have enough fabric to cut out your entire project. Once again, I'm going to put my pin in my straight of grain seam, and I'm going to measure from the line to the edge of the fabric. I'm at 12.75 this time, which is just fine. It doesn't have to be the same measurement as the other side, but you'll notice now I'm at 13 inches. So this pattern needs to be moved just the slightest bit this way, about 1/4 inch, so that I can make sure that my plaid is going to be straight. There I'm at 12.75, 12.75. My pattern is straight now. I want to put a pin in to hold it in place a little bit. Now I'm going to just pin around my edges. Remember, you do not want the pins to extend beyond your cutting line. If your pins are extending beyond your cutting line, then you're not going to be able to cut that spot. We're going to work our way around. The pins are going all the way through the fabric and back up to the top side of the pattern. They just need to have enough pins to hold our pattern in place for us so that as we're cutting, it doesn't move. I would highly recommend that you have your teacher come check you off before you start cutting. I do have some extra fabric down here at the end. I can use that extra fabric to sew on a patch pocket if I want, or if I need to lengthen my pant leg, I can do that. You've got all kind of options at this point. I am now ready to use my shears. I am going to be cutting on the solid, or the L line, because that's the size that I'm wanting to make. So I'm just going to leave my fabric flat on the counter, and I'm gonna work my way up the pattern line. When I reach these little triangles are called notches. We want to cut them out and away from the pattern. So when I get to those, I'm going to mirror image them away from my project. This is a triple notch right here. Triple notches usually indicate the center back of your project, but you'll notice I've got notches in a variety of places. Wherever those come, I mirror image them out and away from my pattern. So I'm just gonna keep cutting here on my solid L line, or my dashed L line, working my way around my pattern pieces. The straighter you cut here, and again, I've got a notch, so I'm gonna cut a little triangle. Those notches are gonna be helpful later. The straighter you cut here, the easier your project's going to be to sew together later. You'll notice that we are cutting right on the size that we need now, and it's trimming off all of that excess tissue paper that we don't need anymore. So this is all just trash now. And now we have a pretty cut out layer of fabric here. Now pajama pants are meant to be loose and a little baggy. So kind of keep that in mind as you're making these. Oftentimes when students see how loose and baggy they are, they think that they're clown pants and that they're way too big for what they need. Pajama pants are supposed to be baggy. These are not leggings. So keep that in mind as you're working. I'm cutting up the side of my pajama pants here. I'm approaching another notch. I'm gonna just make sure that I mirror image that out and cut up the rest of the way on my pattern. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the same thing. What you do to one side, do to the other. I'm gonna go ahead and cut out that second one, but I'm not gonna make you watch that process. We are now ready to move on to our sewing steps.